I call this little scale pattern Crazy 8's because it works in patterns of 8, as you'll see in a moment. What I did there in the beginning was just use different finger patterns for this particular picking form. So the basic 3 that we're working with on this exercise, if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, the first pattern that I played was 1, 2, and 4. The second pattern I played was 1, 3, and 4. And then the third pattern I played was again 1, 2, and 4. The fingering here, and I'll show you. And I call it Crazy 8's because it goes in 8's like this. Each little section is an 8-note phrase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm playing this, by the way, starting on C sharp on the high E string, the 9th fret, and it's a half step and a whole step. And this is the fingering for the entire lick here. So it's a half step, whole step, and it's the same here. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Slide down a half step, and then do the exact same pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Slide down a half step, do the exact same pattern. Slide down a half step, same pattern. Half step, same pattern. So these go in patterns of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is great to practice your alternate picking because it works really well anchoring yourself into a downstroke. So each slide is a downstroke. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, down, 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 down. And this works really well. Some people, I think probably majority of guitarists seem to have more problems with upstrokes, but it's good to take an exercise like this that really anchors you into a downstroke as well. So the first pattern I played was a half step and a whole step. So this next pattern is a whole step and a half step. It's the exact same thing, just a different fingering. Slide down a half step, slide down a half step, half step. And we can do the same pattern with 2 whole steps. I play 2 whole steps with the first, the second, and the 4th finger. Some people do it with the 3rd. I don't really like that. It's not a natural fingering for me. For some of you it is, so do whatever seems appropriate. So the first pattern again. The second pattern, and the third pattern, the 2 whole steps. Now these don't necessarily fit into any particular scale. This sound is kind of reminiscent of some things that Sean Lane used to do, but since I'm playing it on acoustic, I pick everything. He had this really aggressive sound because he would only pick a couple notes and do legato for the rest, and it gave it this effect like it was really quite impressive. But on acoustic guitar, I tend to pick everything, and if you want to practice this to really build up your alternate picking, then this is what you should do. I don't really need to show you the right hand, it's just strict alternate picking starting on a downstroke. And it doesn't have to be in the, none of these are actual scales really. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can put it into a major scale easily. That particular is G major or E minor. So a little bit faster that would be. So it doesn't really matter. You could do it with 2 half steps. almost kind of a chromatic, semi-chromatic kind of sound. And if you really, actually I just thought of this, if you really wanted to build some strength in your third and your fourth finger, the ring finger and the pinky, you could do the same thing I just played, but just omit the first finger. Just do second, third, and fourth. That's really kind of difficult. I've never really done that before. That might help build some strength in there. But you could do this any pattern like that. It doesn't really matter. Even something that's kind of more whole tone. I don't know if I can do this. So it's a quick way to get from one point to another. If you're using this in a solo, I would suggest that you use it as kind of a modulation from one chord to the next, because it doesn't necessarily fit into any chord, but that doesn't mean you have to limit yourself into thinking that it won't work over anything. You can use this scale kind of like in a blues scale. You have what's called a passing tone, you know, you could use this entire scale as a passing tone into the next scale if you want to. So because it doesn't necessarily fit, that makes it work perfectly in almost any situation where you want to get from one point to another. So don't limit yourself into thinking, well, since this isn't like a major or a minor or melodic minor, harmonic minor scale or whatever it happens to be, that you can't have a use for it. The main use for it is just as a practice for alternate picking, but you can use this in the context of, you know, any of your improvisations, so you don't have to worry about feeling that it has a limited application. Or the major scale again. I kind of like that. Let me show you that one. This is in G major. Let me see here. I should mention, when I play scales, I have tendencies to play double notes. Like, for example, so that would be the entire pattern for the scale. Then the whole thing is just going to repeat itself again. A little bit of a jump there. And then the same thing again. Oops. So that'll give you a little something to work on, a little break from all the arpeggios we've been doing lately.
You've been enjoying the RFD Musicale, featuring Carl Schroeder and his boys. Tune in again next week at this same time for another pleasant half hour of music on the RFD.